He had to do it.
Awesome.
Saludos amigos y amigas de Breaking News. Miren que hoy estamos en un episodio más, un capítulo más. ¿Qué tal? Hola, Carramos Luz. Aquí estoy con Enrique Fernández, Arturo Ferrer. Arturo, dime cómo estamos hoy. Dímelo.
Mira. ¡En vivo!
Hoy
We are live.
We are live. Y hoy tenemos un invitado. Nuestro estudio virtual se hace pequeño con este invitado que tenemos hoy. Hoy tenemos de invitado el gran Ray Daniels. ¿Quién es Ray Daniels? El fundador, el director del programa en Cicerone. Tiene nada más y nada menos que 25 años de experiencia en el mundo de la cerveza, por más de 25 años. Además de eso, tuvo 9 años en el Brewers Association. ¿Y qué más podemos decir de Ray Daniels? Ha escrito el libro. Y hablando del libro, mira, está por aquí el libro que escribió él. Designing Great Beers. Pues, yo diría que esto, junto con el libro de Tasting Beer de ¿cómo se llama? De Randy Mosher, son las Biblias de la cerveza. En el caso de los homebrewers, en el caso de Tasting Beer, pues para todo en general. ¿Qué más podemos decir de él? Demos la bienvenida, sin más preámbulo, demos la bienvenida al gran Ray Daniels. How you doing, Ray? Welcome to Breaking News, Beer and Coffee. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks very much. Thanks for the great introduction.
I tried.
Thank you so much, Ray, for taking the time to be with us today. It's an honor for everybody on the show, and I'm sure for all the homebrewers and everybody in Puerto Rico watching. So,
it's already been the most fun interview I've done in months and months and months.
Awesome.
Nice. Thank you again for accepting our invitation. It's like Kike said, it's an honor for us. We are thrilled.
An honor for us. Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yep.
One of the best people you could ask for to have a beer with. So.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Probably a good idea to open. I'm gonna open my beer.
I will open the.
Can I open your beer?
I'm gonna go with a.
I will go with Sympathy for the Devil from Sunken Brewing Company. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, JD, again for this brew.
I will drinking today the Pachanga from Sunken Brewing too.
All right.
And you, what you drinking now?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to open Athletic Brewing Company, All Out.
Nice.
Because this is non-alcoholic beer.
Oh,
wow.
Because tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I have a workout. I have a gym workout.
Yeah. I drinking a low carb too because I go to the gym too, and these guys made me drink beer all the week.
That's good. Workouts are always
all night. Unfortunately.
Awesome.
Salud, Ray. Salud.
Cheers.
Salud.
Cheers. This one.
So Ray, let's start from the basics. Like, how did you find your love for beer? How did you get into this wonderful world of beer? How did you get your start?
Well, I really got my start in serious beer. I got my start in beer down where Jorge is at Texas A&M University, walking across campus to the Dixie Chicken and drinking Lone Stars for 45 cents a can.
Wow.
long time ago. And going to keggers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I started drinking beer in college like everybody. And then started drinking a little bit better beer after I got a job and so forth. And then I started homebrewing in 1989.
Wow.
30 years ago, more than 30 years ago now.
31. I was born in 89, so you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
31. Yeah.
I'm born in 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started my family the next year. My oldest was born in 1990, so she grew up with beer in the house all the time, and she's a good craft beer drinker now.
Nice.
Both my kids are. But
Great generation.
yeah, so I started homebrewing, and you know, first batch was, I thought, pretty good, and then really quick after that first batch, I made 2 different batches of beer, like one, you know, 1 week and one the next week. So you couldn't. The second one wasn't ready to drink, obviously, by the time we made the third one, and you know, improving, adding some things to the technique. First batch was extract only. I think maybe the second batch was extract only too, and then the third batch I did a partial mash. I added some finishing hops to the beer, and then sort of waited. And when that second batch was ready to drink, opened it up and tasted it, and it was really awful. It was infected. It was nasty ass beer. Oops, sorry.
Go ahead, don't worry.
And I thought, you know, okay, maybe this homebrew thing's not going to be so great after all. Well, I brewed this third batch, so may as well try this third batch. You know, a couple of weeks later, the third batch was ready, and I opened up that third batch, poured it in, and it was like, well, it smells pretty good. Taste is like, oh, this is really, really good. And I mean, honestly, I thought that beer was like the best beer I'd ever had. And so, okay, we're on the right track. I just need to, you know, learn some more things about how to do this right and keep going. And, you know, within a year, I brewed probably 30 batches of beer and I entered the National Homebrew Competition that first year, and I won first place.
Wow.
In Continental Dark, which would be kind of a Vienna März in October type category.
Okay.
And, you know, from there, there was no looking back. I was super gutsy. Homebrewing, I met Randy Mosier. Randy Mosier was sitting at the table with me when I went to the Chicago Beer Society meeting after I won that award. And I'm sitting there with Randy and a couple other guys, and they're talking about the National Homebrew Conference, and some guy from Chicago won one of the big awards. Don't know who it is. And I was like, well, actually, it was me. I pulled out a bottle and put it on the table. And Randy Mosier and I have been doing beer stuff together ever since. That was 1990. So
1990.
Wow.
1990, yeah.
So were the beers that you were brewing at that point, had you tried the styles before, or were you just like
most of them?
No.
No, you know, I started going to the local liquor store and seeing what I could find, and for the most part, there wasn't much out there. Even the craft beer selection was pretty minimal, and the imports were, you know, not much, and what was there was pretty old and not very good quality. So yeah, it took quite a while to really. I mean, nobody in the United States in those days had tasted a lot of those beers. You know, even Charlie Papazian didn't get to go to Europe, you know, every year and taste beer the way people do these days. So yeah, there was a lot of sort of guessing and reading Michael Jackson's books and trying to figure out, you know, what a beer was supposed to taste like based upon his description and stuff you read somewhere else maybe. And we didn't have the internet, you know, there was no way to research. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
Nowadays you can look up a recipe for basically anything. So
that's
ingredients too. You can buy ingredients from anywhere. And it's so easy to do a beer right now.
That's another point, that even if you wanted to make something a bit different, maybe you couldn't even do it because of the stuff available at local shops. So it's awesome. That was 1989. Wow.
1989. Wow.
Yeah.
Are you
I think
still
I was,
are you still homebrewing?
Well, I'm homebrewing again. Is what I'm doing thanks to COVID. You know, last winter, I think I got inspired. I visited one of the local yeast companies, Omega yeast companies here in Chicago, and
Omega.
visited with them, and they had a saison strain, and saison's my favorite style. So I thought, okay, I'll make a batch of saison. They had several different strains, so I'll make a batch of saison, and I'll split it, you know, across these 3 strains and see what it's like. And I did that, and liked all 3 of the beers really, but one of them really well. So yeah, I started because of COVID. I was able, you know, I'm home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until really recently, when people would ask me, "Do you still homebrew?" my answer was, "Well, it turns out you have to be home to homebrew." and bottom line is, for most of the last 10 years, you know, I've been traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm home, but I'm not home consistently. I'm not home enough to be able to start, you know, a batch of homebrew as a multi-week, multi-month project, depending upon how you do it.
Right.
And yeah, I couldn't just start something and then run off to halfway around the world and leave it there. So
Nice.
Great. Talking about homebrew, when you came with the idea to write a book about designing great recipes for beers.
Yeah. Well, that book came out of, you know, of course, my own homebrewing efforts and my own effort to create recipes around beer styles. When I got involved with Chicago Beer Society all the way back in 1990, I started sort of heading up the homebrew activities, because Chicago Beer Society is a beer appreciation organization overall, and they run beer tasting events for the general membership. But we also had a significant number of homebrew members, and I was sort of heading up the homebrew stuff. And one of the things we started doing was individual meetings focused around beer styles. And I was going to, you know, sort of show everybody what I was thinking about this. So I did the first one, which was around Bock beer. And I collected all the recipes I could find from all the books that I had, which was probably 5 books. You know? And maybe from some copies of Zymergy, you know, you go through and look at the old AHA winners and stuff like that. And I had maybe 2 whole years of back issues of Zymergy to look through. So, you know, all this data. So I did
no internet
at all. Fax. That was the closest thing we had to the internet, was fax.
Fax.
We weren't even really using email then. You know, CompuServe and AOL.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? They were around, but you know, you couldn't.
That's an eternity to get online.
AOL and your friend was on CompuServe. You couldn't send messages to each other because, you know, those were 2 different worlds. They weren't connected.
It wasn't compatible. Cross-platform.
Yeah. And you know, CompuServe, you had these really catchy email addresses. Mine was 71261.705 at CompuServe.com.
Wow.
Email address. I didn't get a choice. They just told me that's what it was. So. Yeah. So I did a presentation for our homebrew club about Bock beer, how to, you know, what the attributes of it were. We tasted a couple, and I finished the presentation, and somebody said, you know, if you did this for all the styles, it'd be a really good basis for a book. Exactly.
That's where when the magic started.
Yeah.
And then one of Randy's good friends was a guy named Steve Castleman out in California. He was a talented brewer, a brilliant guy. And Castleman was on the AHA advisory board. And Randy whispered to Castleman, and Castleman whispered to me, and I submitted a proposal, and the HA said, "Hey, yeah, we want you to write this book." So there you go.
Nice.
I will say that the acceptance letter from Elizabeth Gold, who was the publisher at the time, got lost in the mail, and I never got her letter saying, "Yes, we want you to do this book." And I mean, months had gone by since I submitted the proposal, and I just thought, "Oh, I guess they didn't like the proposal after all." And I went to the AHA conference that year, and I saw Elizabeth, who I knew slightly, and we started to chat a little bit. And she said, "So, are you working on the book?" And I was like, "What book?" and she's like, "Well, didn't you get my letter?" I was like, "No, I never got any letter from you."
Wow.
So that there was a near miss there. That project just totally gone by the wayside.
Better late than never.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got it together, and of course, it took me far longer to write it than they had planned. These days, they don't give writers that much leeway, but fortunately, I was able to follow through, and they gave me the time to do everything I wanted to do.
How long was that process? The like writing the book?
It took quite a while. I wanted. It was basically the better part of a full year that I was working, not full time, but certainly a significant amount of my time on the book. I had a small business, public relations firm. I shut it down to try and start a brewery with Randy. The brewery brewery never came to fruition. And you know how things are like that. They kind of start and stop, go through different things. So I pretty much spent most of that year working on the book with little, efforts around the brewery off and on. So yeah, most better part of a year.
That still seems like a pretty short amount of time for I mean, this is a monumental. At that point, you didn't have a lot of resources to base your stuff on, right? You were literally just.
Well, I was real fortunate with a couple things. One is the Siebel Institute had a pretty good brewing library back in those days, and it was located right here in Chicago. I went to the Siebel Institute during that time period as part of our effort to try and get the brewery started. And so I was on good terms with them, and I could use the Siebel library, a lot of historical research, and there was a lot of books in German in the Siebel library. And my German is better than my Spanish, but still not all that good. I could usually figure out like where they were talking about what I wanted to know, but I couldn't fully translate the details of the text. And so there were instructors at Siebel. There was a guy named Klaus Zastro, who was native-born German, had immigrated to the United States, perfect German. So Klaus would humor me. And he said, "Well, you bring me, like I'm not going to translate whole chapters or anything, but you bring me like one page that you want to, I'll help you figure it out." So Klaus would do that, and we'd figure out some details on some of the German beers. So there are a lot of great resources, in Chicago. And I did some traveling and via CompuServe. There was an online discussion group around beer and beer history. And I connected with some people who had old historical brewing books. And people would do things like, they would copy a whole book for you. Wow. As long as you paid for the copies. So I got a book on Scottish beer from somebody over the internet, over CompuServe. I met a great guy named Steve Presley, who worked for the Anheuser-Busch out in Colorado. And he was a collector of old brewing books. And so he and I would go out to Colorado occasionally. So I actually would met up with Steve and, got some of these books from him. And that's when I got my first sort of cook's tour of an Anheuser-Busch brewery, which is an interesting thing to do. So, yeah, I mean, there were different ways to research things back in those days.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit of the story behind the Cicerone program, how you started, how you decided to came up with the Cicerone.
Yep. Well, so immediately before I started Cicerone, I was working for the Brewers Association. I had several jobs. Initially, editor of the magazine, Cymergy and New Brewer, publisher for the books, Brewers Publications, and then my last job was director of craft beer marketing, the job that Julia Hurst was doing recently. I created that program and passed it on to Julia, so that she and I are the only two people who've ever done that job for them. In that role, I was promoting American craft beer, and I was going out visiting all over the country, promoting craft beer, talking to different groups, and drinking a lot of American craft beer because that was the job. That's what you do, right? It was terrible. Somebody has to do it there. But, in the process of doing that, you go into a lot of places that, unfortunately, even though they had craft beer, they didn't necessarily know anything about how to serve it properly. So you also wind up getting a lot of bad beer. And you start to realize, there's a lot of retailers who just don't know the proper way to care for and serve the beers that are being offered these days, or beers in general, right? And so that kind of stuck in my mind. And there were a lot of people working on that problem from the brewery side. But when I left the BA, I was trying to figure out what to do next. And this whole idea of having a beer sommelier program was in my mind. And I was like, this seems like something that could work. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. And interestingly enough, I talked to Randy about it, and Randy didn't think it was a good idea at all. Nobody's going to go for that. No. And I was like, really? Like, I thought this was a pretty good idea, certifying people's knowledge around beer. And he's like, no, don't do that. And, I went back and started thinking about some other ideas, and I kept thinking, what's going on with Randy? Oh, you got a little hot pin there? The Road to Cicerone series. Yeah, that's what those are. Right. And finally it occurred to me, like 2 or 3 months later, I was like, it's not a bad idea. It's just Randy. Randy does a lot of certifications. That's it. Randy is so competent and so knowledgeable and so capable that he doesn't care, about certificates or merit badges or anything like that. Randy knows what he knows, and Randy knows when his stuff's good and when it's not. Randy doesn't care about stuff like that, right? But the rest of the world does.
Randy's old school.
Yeah. Well, Randy's just, a savant, basically. So after a couple of months of not working on it because of that sort of misunderstanding, I said, damn, I got to get after it. I got to start working on this thing. So, maybe March, April 2007, I started working on it in earnest. I remember going to the Craft Brewers Conference that year and telling several people, like Garrett Oliver, that I was going to work on a program like that, and that I'd really like to, get some input and possibly assistance from them. Most of them were very reserved at the time, but it all worked out for the best. It started to take shape by the middle of the year. I knew I needed a special name for it. I wanted a name that could be trademarked, so that if you earned this title, it actually meant something, that somebody else down the street couldn't just start using the same title. If you call it beer sommelier, anybody can call themselves beer sommelier. You can't trademark that, right? So we needed a unique name. And I was looking, brainstorming, trying to figure out, ideas. And I had all kinds of crazy ideas. And, Marquis de Servicier. When you're brainstorming, you have to write down everything so you can move on and go to the next thing. That's like one of the worst that I remember. And I was decided to look. I was thinking, what I really want is I want people to be guides to the world of beer, right? So let me look under in the thesaurus under guide. What's another word for a guide? And I'm reading through and boom, 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 Cicerone. I was like, that's it. That's my word. And literally, the minute I saw it, it's like, that's it. That's what we're going to use.
Nice.
So, because I'd never heard the word before, and I knew, most Americans probably hadn't either. Most people probably hadn't either.
Oh,
Yeah.
Although it's far more common in Romance languages, right? Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. It's a better known word in those languages than it is in English. And there's a Cicerone tour guide series that I think is either Italian or Spanish. I'm not sure. In Europe, there's a Cicerone hotel chain in Europe as well. So again, in other languages, it's better known than it is in English.
I had never heard of the word before,
Me either. So the first time I
That
heard
name is
when I first saw the
represents
program,
beer.
I assumed that it had to do something with like cerveza, with beer.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of cerveza, Cicerone, it kind of has a similar, but yeah, no, I wouldn't. That's awesome, the guide thing.
Well, the other thing, and it took me about 6 months to realize this, but Cicerone and sommelier both start with the same. They both have the same rhythm, same number of syllables. They both start with that sibilant S sound. So there's a great parallelism between the two words that just like really works. But I didn't know that. Maybe I knew it intuitively. Maybe I knew it, just naturally. But it took me about 6 months to figure out, like, oh yeah, that really was a good word.
Yeah, but you came with a perfect word.
Yeah. So and now people like, oh, of course, beer means Cicerone. It's always meant Cicerone. That's everybody knows that. And why do you? It's like, no.
No,
really.
There was no association between the word Cicerone and beer before.
Great Daniels.
So,
yeah.
so
that name is synonym of beer, of beer connoisseur.
I know. Yeah. But
So the original idea for the program was more sort of getting bars and businesses to up their game instead of just like not necessarily just increasing your own knowledge of beer personally.
Yeah, and I mean that's still our main mission is to improve the quality of beer for consumers, right? Because beer, unlike other adult beverages, is easily ruined. Period. And particularly in the process of serving it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at spirits. Have you ever had a bad spirit? I mean, seriously?
It's true. It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wine,
Like,
okay. You can ruin wine if you work really hard. If you keep it way too hot for a long time, it may go off. But if it's just like, well, we stored it at room temperature, and wine people like, oh, they ruined my wine. They served it at room temperature instead of room temperature. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. By ruin, what do you mean? Like, did it change the flavor? No, but it was served at the wrong temperature. Like, for Christ's sake.
Come on.
Cool it off. It's fine. You haven't changed the flavor of the beer or the wine. So yeah, again, there's a lot of complaints around wine. Wine people are very finicky about service, but it's really hard to actually ruin the flavor of the product during the retail process. The one thing is glass, service, where they open a bottle and leave it on the back bar and keep recorking it, pouring a glass out of it. Yeah, okay, you leave that open too long and it goes off and it's bad. But that's the one thing you can do to wine service.
Yeah.
Beer service? Oh, come on. You can screw up beer in so many ways, right?
This is true.
Brewing the bad way. They don't have the proper glass for the style and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I had never stopped to think about it, comparing it to spirits, but it's true that there's way more ways to ruin a good beer.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to get the people in the beer industry, and we call that first level certified beer server. But in fact, basically everybody who works with beer should get that first level certification, because otherwise you're going to do dumb things. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, and people are going to know that you don't really know beer, right? That you don't really know how to serve beer properly, how to present beer properly. And, there's more to it than just opening and pouring. So there you go.
For sure.
So that's
wait, how many levels have the Cicerone program? Because the first one is the one that you talk about that has
certified beer server.
Certified beer server is first level. Second level is certified Cicerone. Third level is advanced Cicerone, and fourth level is master Cicerone.
Can you explain the levels for us?
So certified beer server is pretty much what it says. It's intended for it's intended for everyone who's going to work in the beer business, because service is fundamental to understanding beer and working with beer. If someone is say I got a marketing job, I was a product manager for a company one time, and if you're a product manager for a brewery and you don't understand the basics of serving beer, you're going to make some dumb mistakes, and you're going to look stupid to your colleagues, and you may put things out as advertising or promotion that are just wrong, that everybody else will look at it and say, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So everybody who's working with beer needs to do that. But it's basic information. Second level is certified Cicerone. And the first level can be done all online. Both the training course and the exam is done online. For everyone, the exam is done online. So it's just knowledge, basics. Second level, certified Cicerone. This is where you earn the title of Cicerone, and you can call yourself a Cicerone. And this exam is more involved, and it's an in-person exam, written, no multiple choice. It's all fill in the blank and some essay questions. And there is a tasting exam for you to demonstrate that you know different beer styles. You understand the difference between key beer styles, and you can identify common off flavors in beer, particularly those associated with service. So the skunk beer or light struck beer, oxidized or old beer, dirty draft lines. These are the three most common service flaws. And so you must be able to identify beers that have these flaws as a certified Cicerone. And then we also test them on basic off flavors like diacetyl DMS, acetaldehyde. These are the most common brewery imparted off flavors. And it's very useful for people who are out in the field in the beer business. If they taste a beer and it's off, if it's bad in some way, to be able to communicate that correctly to the brewery. If you call the brewery and say, "Oh, hey, there's something wrong with this beer, it tastes bad," you're not helping them very much, right?
Right.
But if you call them up and say, "Hey, guys, this latest batch has a lot of diacetyl in it," you might want to check on that. Now you have more credibility, and they know what they're looking for when they go back.
And it's more constructive feedback versus just
So it's basic professionalism, and learning those off flavors is not simple. It's not something you can do in a couple of days, but over a couple of months, practice, learn it a couple of times, practice a couple of times. Pretty much anybody should be able to pick up those particular off flavors in beer. So that's the second level, and I think we have around 5,000 certified Cicerones now. There's something like 130,000 certified beer servers currently. The next level above that is advanced Cicerone. The certified Cicerone exam is 4 hours with the tasting exam. Advanced Cicerone exam is 1 full day.
Wow.
And there's, I think, a total of 4 tasting panels and 2 oral exams. as well as the written sessions. And there's about 100, 120 advanced Cicerones at this time. We didn't start out, when we started out originally, we didn't have the advanced Cicerone level. We added it in 2016, I think, because we had a gap. We had a, well, and yes, we had a gap, and we also had what do you call, a log jam. A log jam at Master Cicerone. All of a sudden, we had hundreds of people who wanted to take Master Cicerone, certified Cicerone, and so we couldn't accommodate everyone who wanted to take the exam. So we were drawing lots. We were doing a lottery to get the seats in the master exam, and unfortunately, by doing a lottery, some people got to take it, but the people who got to take it were not necessarily the people who were actually ready to take it. And so we were seeing a lot of poor scores. We were seeing people who clearly were ready, but who couldn't get into the exam because they couldn't get a spot in the lottery. And we talked about many different ways of trying to sort out the problem, pre-qualification, whatever. We ultimately decided that if we did anything to pre-qualify people, it would become a de facto fourth level. And so we may as well just create a fourth level and have a separate exam. And so basically the advanced exam is kind of half of the master exam. It's the same format as master in one day instead of 2 days. The master exam is 2 days.
And I assume the jump from certified Cicerone to master was way more knowledge. So it kind of needed a step in between.
Yep. Well, one of the deciding factors in doing that was Patrick Rue, who was the founder and president of the brewery in California.
Right.
Yep. Patrick's a master Cicerone. Patrick passed the master exam on his second attempt, which he has stated publicly. So, and when I told him that he had passed, he said, "You've got to put another exam between certified and master because that jump is just way too big." He said when he took the exam the second time, he studied 20 hours a week for 6 months. For the master exam. Wow.
And he took it twice.
He passed the second attempt. So yeah, so that's why we decided to do that. And the master exam, as I said, 2 days. There are 12 oral exams from industry experts and masters. Myself, Randy Mosier, guys like Mitch Steele, who used to be the brewmaster out at Stone. So tons of really well-respected, smart people do the oral exams, and then they've got like 2 days of written exams and 8 tasting panels. I think they taste a total of 40 or 50 samples over 2 days. It's brutal. And wow. People always ask me if I would pass. Like, well, the written part, no problem. The oral exams, I can make it. Oral
exams. It gets tough.
But man, that tasting stuff is just super, super tough.
Ray, how was the whole program affected with COVID during this year?
Well, it's been a big challenge.
We also have a question here from a viewer that goes along with that.
Yeah.
But in general, like, I assume it must have been because you do a lot of in-person stuff, all the tastings, obviously.
Right. All the certified master exam, we basically just canceled 2020. We had hoped to do master this spring, but that's not going to happen. We're rescheduling for next fall sometime. So hopefully we'll get to run a master exam in the fall. Certified Cicerone exam, we're doing written exams online through remote proctoring software, right? And that's working well. And honestly, we may keep doing that even, when the world goes back to normal, whatever normal starts to look like, because it's more convenient for people. It costs less money for them, costs less money for us. It's a good way. To do things. The proctoring's a bit of pain in the butt, honestly. the software and what you have to do to prove that you're not cheating but whatever. It works out okay, and we're good with that. We haven't been able to give any tasting exams. That's very frustrating for everyone, but hopefully we'll be able to do that by mid-year. We have not figured out a way to do tasting exams without being face-to-face.
Yeah,
that's right.
With a group of people,
Yeah.
you know, it just you can't do that.
That's a toughie. Yeah.
It's the most important part of the.
And I mean, once you get to those levels, there's no way of doing it without tasting, because that's probably more than half of the exam, I assume, is you actually proving. We have a question here from another viewer. Are you going to offer advanced Cicerone in Spanish anytime soon?
I believe so.
Sí, sí.
I need Chema. You know the answer, Jorge?
Yeah, the writing part is going to be available.
Okay. Yeah, I should have researched that before I came. We have our representative for Latin America, Chema Mora.
Yeah, from Costa Rica.
Who's in Costa Rica. And Chema is an advanced Cicerone himself, and he has been proctoring Spanish language exams for quite some time and doing them online for certified. And we just started doing advanced exams, written exams online as well a few months ago. And because I would have said my understanding is we're getting ready to do one in Spanish. It's coming up. Is it coming up February? Is it that soon or a little further?
I don't remember the dates, but it's going to be this year. Also, it's going to be this year.
Yeah. So that's coming. So the other question: did we see jump of sales and study guides? Initially, yes. All right. In May and June, April, May, June, some of the companies, everyone was thinking, "Oh, this is going to last for 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and then it's going to be over, and we'll be back to business." And so some of the breweries thought, okay, well, our salespeople can't go out and sell. This is a good time to have them work on Cicerone. So they would buy Road to Cicerone guides and set their people to work studying. Unfortunately, since that theory's been proven false, people have decided, not so much. To have their people spend time studying. So it's been a challenging year for us since July. Thank goodness for the federal government assistance programs. We still have a full staff, and I hope to continue that through 2021.
Before we continue, we have I will change to Spanish. Sorry for that. I will change to Spanish. Antes de continuar, tenemos una sorpresa para los que nos están viendo, los que están observando el episodio de hoy. Ustedes saben cómo yo soy, un regalo, me gusta regalar, me gusta dar
cachete.
De cachete, mira, auspiciado por nosotros, mira, ni Rey lo sabe, pero se va a entrar ahora. Vamos a hacer un giveaway. Quique, ¿de qué vamos a hacer el giveaway? Enseña de qué vamos a hacer el giveaway.
I have a little bit of
Explícale lo que vamos a hacer para que
Nice.
We want to do a giveaway on one of your Explore Beer exams.
Okay.
I understand this is sort of a step before the
beer
general beer knowledge. Kind of helps you, I assume, get ready a little bit for the first step for the certified beer server.
Yeah, so Explore Beer is intended, it was designed as a consumer-oriented program. We figure that everybody in the beer business benefits when consumers know more about beer.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to be better beer consumers. There is no exam associated with Explore Beer. It is just a training course. It is video-based. So there's, I think, 70 some odd videos. They're typically very short, 3-4 minutes each. And you'll be most happy to hear that the videos do not feature me.
That's bad news, right?
Feature someone far younger and better looking.
Oh.
and that is Master Cicerone Pat Fahey.
I know.
Mr. Fahey is known around the office as 007. It's not because of his dashing good looks, but rather because he was the 7th Master Cicerone.
Wow.
Pat Fahey seems like an awesome guy. I saw a couple of his videos during the pandemic, his YouTube videos.
Yep.
He was like discussing a beer style per week.
Tasting together.
They were very interesting.
Yep. Well, we'll probably be putting those on a rotation and making those available on a regular basis, talking about them on a regular basis. We did that, the tasting together, and we also did, we had Master Cicerone Neil Whitty did a series of prep talks, which were certified beer server preparations.
I saw those too. Awesome.
Yeah, those are good.
I already have beer server.
Explorer beer is great. And Explorer beer is very accessible, very easy. If you watch it straight through, it takes maybe 2 hours to complete, but you get a really good grounding in all the beer styles, fundamentals of beer brewing, beer flavor, all the good stuff. And if you like that, then you're drinking some beer, then maybe if you think you're going to go to work in the beer industry, then you move on to certified beer server.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, before we continue, la persona en este caso, en este premio en particular, que es el giveaway del que nosotros vamos a regalar de parte del Breaking News Beer and Coffee, la pregunta la vamos a poner ya mismo todavía, pero en el caso de este, se la puede ganar cualquier parte, cualquier persona. Puede estar en Estados Unidos, en Egipto, en Rusia, en la Siberia, en Chile, que tenemos amigos de Chile viéndonos, en Costa Rica, Argentina, donde sea. La persona que se gane este premio puede estar en cualquier parte del mundo. El que se lo gane, por favor, una vez concluya esto, nos escribe un mensaje aquí en Facebook, nos escribe un mensaje para que nos dé sus datos y poder enviarle su regalo. Bien importante, otra cosa, mayor de 18 años, ¿qué más puedo decir? Más nada. Entonces, pues, y otra cosa, no necesariamente esto es bien importante, no necesariamente la primera persona que conteste es la persona que se gana el premio. O sea que en este caso, quien se lo gane es el que escoja el señor director. Eso es todo. Señor director, poncha la pregunta.
Vamos por ahí. So we're gonna do a question, Ray, and whoever answers it the first in the comments is gonna get the
giveaway. Ray,
nice question. Nice question.
So we're gonna give a couple of minutes there to people. We got a question here. In the meantime, James was asking, Ray, what's your favorite style of beer?
Saison, and kind of a classic Saison DuPont, sort of, barley based, Saison yeast, nice dry, good noble hop, flavor and aroma hops, and that's what I've been working this year, and I've made I think maybe 4 batches, and one of them was just absolutely perfect.
Wow.
Try to master the style, right?
What's that? Master? Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Trying to master the style.
That's a pretty tough one to get right on to nail it right on the.
It's been working well. The last batch I made, I tried to make a bigger batch because I was having to rebrew like every 6 weeks, and I overdid it on the hops. Well, it's not terrible, but it's just a little more bitter, little more bitter than I wanted to be. So I'll back it off a little bit next time.
So you're trying to go for literally a Saison DuPont, or are you trying to give it like a little bit of
Yeah, I mean, I know I wouldn't say literally saison DuPont, but pretty darn close. You know, really dry, really crisp, high apparent attenuation, high carbonation, and like Tettnang and Saz hops. So very classic noble hop character of it. And,
have you tried to go into any competitions with the?
I mean, you know, in the 90s, I lived for competition. I used to, I mean, I would say a third to a half of the beer I used to make used to go to competitions. I won not once but twice a thing called the Midwest Homebrewer of the Year competition, which was, there were 5 competitions around the Midwest. It was like Chicago, Kenosha, Minneapolis, Kansas City. It seems like there was one more, maybe St. Louis. And whoever got the most points, you could only get only one beer could score in each beer style. So if you had one good beer, you couldn't enter it in all 5 and pick up, you know, points for each one. Right. You had to brew a variety of beers, of different beer styles to win. So I would do that, and that was like in the early part of the winter, and then national homebrew competition would be in the spring, and take the best ones and put them into national homebrew competition. So yeah, I used to do a lot of competitive brewing, and I used to have a whole wall full of ribbons and trophies.
Our local homebrew club here in Puerto Rico, which is just getting started again. We had a little bit of a hiatus for a couple of years. Their first competition is gonna be an iron brewer, which we've done before, which is like 3 random ingredients, and people have to make this year the ingredients were strawberry, basil, and the
Fermentis.
That's 33 yeast from Fermentis. What would you make? What style if you had those 3
ingredients?
Strawberry, basil. Yeah, it was S33. The yeast,
well,
right?
I mean, strawberry could just be an adjunct. I mean, I could make a saison with that. Probably. Well, what's S33? I don't know that.
S33 is sort of like I think it's a Belgian style yeast, but it's not very. It's very neutral.
Yeah, it's very neutral. It's not that spicy.
I don't think it's. Yeah. I don't know if it's enough to make a saison. The
Yeah, because I could definitely. I mean, the strawberry could just be an adjunct. It's not going to impart much flavor one way or the other. Basil, the basil would be fun to use, right? To dry hop with some basil. The yeast, I don't know what style you go for. Maybe you're going more for like a Kolsch, you know, with a kind of neutral. It really depends on the flavor profile of the yeast. Because Kolsch won't tolerate very much ester at all. But anyway, yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I used to run an event like that in the 90s. We used to do an iron brewer type competition, and we would hold it. We used to run the first round of the national homebrew competition in Chicago, and we would have the tasting of those beers Saturday night after the judging was finished. So that this was another reason for judges to come and judge for the weekend, was that they could attend the event and taste the beers. And we did it a couple of years, and we would use by today's standards, pretty mundane ingredients, you know, like a pound of chocolate malt and you know, a particular hop, an odd hop. And a particular yeast. No, we always left the yeast completely up to the brewers. We would give them a couple of ingredients and say, you have to include these ingredients, but you can use whatever yeast you want.
Okay.
So the last time I think we did that, I was trying to get Michael Jackson to come
Wow.
And I contacted him a year in advance about coming, and we arranged it. We managed to get him to come. And that was the year that we decided for the Iron Chef beers that the odd ingredient that they had to brew with was breakfast cereal. So everyone had to include one full box of breakfast cereal in their recipe. Wow. And they could pick any cereal they wanted, but they had to put a whole box in. They had to display the box with the beer, for the beers. And Michael Jackson, God love him, Michael Jackson came, he tasted all of those beers, and when he talked that night, he gave notes on every single one of those beers to those homebrewers in that room. And that was a great event. But that was the first time I'd met Michael, and for a couple of years there, I was known as the breakfast cereal beer guy to Michael Jackson. So I was a little worried about what my legacy was going to be. Fortunately, when I wrote Designing Great Beers, Michael was a big fan of the book and said many kind things about it. And he and I subsequently did a number of things together and got to know each other pretty well. So, but I was the breakfast cereal beer guy there. And he would tell that story from time to time as well.
Michael Jackson, the legendary Michael Jackson.
We have a couple of answers here in the comments. I'm gonna try and pick the first one. Let me see. Go for this one. I believe Tomás was the first.
O sea, Tomás Correa nos escribe un mensaje privado a nuestro Facebook. Nos escribe un mensajito para que nos den los datos para poder enviarte tu premio y felicidades. ¡Felicidades! Congratulations!
Cheers, Tomás. And he also suggested a Kolsch with strawberries and basil. That's nice. Sounds pretty good. We have a question here from another viewer. What are the requirements for the Cicerone program to add a new beer style to the tasting exam?
Well, I mean, we use the BJCP style guidelines for the whole program. So that's really where we take our cue. Now, just recently, you know, we had the explosion of New England style IPA in the United States. And it wasn't part of BJCP at the time, but BJCP did make a special, addendum modification to add that in, and we quickly followed suit. But yeah, I mean, we like BJCP because they are responsive, but they don't blow in the wind, right? Usually is 5 years or so between versions of BJCP guidelines. That's enough to incorporate significant changes, but not so much that every little thing that comes along and says, "Oh, we're going to be a beer style," and then it goes away 6 months later. Yeah. Right?
Like the brute IPAs.
Brute IPAs, black IPAs.
Wait, have you guys used actually? Has any New England IPA made it to a tasting panel?
I don't know the answer to that personally, but I'd be surprised if they have not. Right.
So it was long enough to
Yeah, we use a pretty broad range of styles on the tasting exams, and you know we consider German, Belgian, British, American, and every exam is a mix of those 4 styles, so that it's not too heavily weighted in any one. And some people may be disappointed with that, that they're big American craft beer fans, they know about American craft beer, and they take the exam and there's only 2 American craft beers on the exam. Mm-hmm. Like, well, that's what being a beer professional is. It's not just knowing the beers you love and the beers you drink every day, but understanding the universe of beer.
Yep.
Yeah. What's your take on the new trendy styles? Now that we're speaking of New England IPA, like slushy beers, I think New England IPAs have pretty much already solidified themselves as they're here to stay. I personally love them. I mean, if they're well made, but what's your take on all these?
Well, I mean, so first of all, New England IPAs are unlike any other style that has come along in the history of beer styles, basically, right? We started talking about beer styles. Michael Jackson really was the first person to sort of say, hey, there are styles of beer. You can put beers together based upon their characteristics and their styles. And Charlie Papazian picked that up and carried it forward in the U.S. And they worked together on those things. And BJCP got involved. And but I mean, I've studied the history of beer styles, and there has never been a style that has gone from zero to,
boom,
huge presence and stayed the way New England IPA has, right?
Wow.
I mean, the first year they had a New England IPA category at BJCP, it was the largest, at GABF, got my acronyms, it was the largest category at GABF that year. I think it may have been the largest category ever at GABF. So anyway, it is not like any other style. Other styles have, kind of come, popularized, declined, or come and stayed at a basic level, but New England IPA was just huge. So, and I do like me a New England IPA. Funny enough, the brewery that won the gold medal for New England IPA the first year that they had the hazy juicy IPA category, which is what they call it, is the closest brewery to my house. Literally a short dog walk over to the brewery, and then dogs
Alarmist
in the room. So what's that?
Alarmist.
Yeah.
They were the first ones, right?
Nice.
And I was lucky enough to visit them a couple of years ago. I think a year after I'm not sure which year they won, but I think I went the year after. But really, really good. Le Juice, really awesome beer.
Yeah, very nice beer.
I have them at your local.
I often have that in my refrigerator, and of course it's very easy to get more because I literally have to drive by there to go to the grocery store.
Awesome. Nice.
So, what are the future plans for Ray Daniels and the Cicerone program?
Well, at some point, those two things are going to diverge. Because obviously I've been doing this for a very long time, and I have young, wonderful people in the organization who are ready, capable, and ready to start taking a major role in the organization. And so that's what I'm working on these days is mentoring them as they play a larger role in the organization, and looking forward to spending a little more time in the things you can't see behind me, which is my workshop and playroom. Because ultimately I started making beer because I like making things in general. I make dinner every night I'm home, basically. And during COVID, we only eat out. We only order in food maybe once a month. Mostly cook almost every night. But I make leather making projects. I'm a welder, woodworker. There's just an endless number of things to do. I've always had a lot of hobbies.
I know that you make also shoes.
Yes, that's kind of what
I saw it.
I've got a pair right there. That's I have everything done except the soles. I ordered the soles to give them as a Christmas present, so everything is made, but the soles are back ordered. So I'm waiting for the soles to come in, and all I have to do is stitch them to the soles, and they'll be done. But fortunately, my brother, who they're intended for, has a birthday in March, so maybe he'll get them for his birthday.
Maybe you're already a fan, but there's an awesome YouTube channel, Adam Savage he used to be the Mythbusters guy. Tested. I don't know if you've ever seen his channel, but if you like making stuff, that's an awesome.
Yeah, and I recently got an Oculus virtual reality thing from somebody for Christmas, and that's one of the things I was looking at was the Adam Savage show which is, I mean, it's a little weird in VR. I think maybe I'd rather just watch it on TV, but
those things are awesome.
Yeah.
We had one last question here from a viewer. He's asking, do you personally have any of the Cicerone certifications? Do you even I mean, you made it, so
right.
Do you even go through the process?
You don't need it.
Right. From the beginning, I mean, at the beginning, I mean, I wrote all the exam questions. I graded all the exams. So no, it was never intended to be for me. It was intended to help other people move their careers forward. Mm-hmm. You know, I was at the point when I started this that my career was kind of made. It was what it was going to be. And as I said, you know, certified Cicerone, advanced Cicerone. Yeah, I'm sure I could pass those. Master Cicerone, I would study my ass off for the tasting exam. You know, I'd study for the written at this point as well. But that tasting exam is really, really tough. Some of our good friends in the industry are the folks from Cara Technology that make the off flavor standards, and they come over. Dr. Bill Simpson is the head, and he's a brilliant flavor scientist. And they come over and run a week-long tasting workshop in our space, in our classroom, typically the week before the master exam. And so a lot of the master candidates will sign up and spend that full week working on their tasting skills.
Wow.
Before they roll into the master exam, and that's definitely very useful. I would definitely do that if I was going to take the master exam.
It's quite difficult.
How many masters? Yeah. How many masters are
19.
19. Wow.
19 right now. Wow.
Yep.
No.
It sounds like it's gotta be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be
whole
tough.
Whole lot of knowledge that you gotta go through. I think we're ready with that. Thank you. Thanks a ton for being here, Ray.
Thank you all. Thanks for promoting Explore Beer. I hope whoever won it enjoys that. And what a great time I had talking to you guys.
Thank you for your time.
We have a great time.
Where they can find out some more information about the Cicerone program? If you can tell them the Instagram, the Facebook, your webpage.
I mean, you know, cicerone.org on the internet. If you're still using the old-fashioned thing, the internet. We have an Instagram. I'm not sure what it is, but you can search for Cicerone on Instagram. My Instagram is Ray Daniels at Cicerone, like Ray Daniels _ Cicerone. I'm Cicerone _org on Twitter. We also have at Cicerone on Twitter, which is sort of the official company account. So yeah, we're on all those things, and there's probably new, cooler things we should be doing, but that's where we are today.
So cicerone.org, not .com. Important.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct. The .com has always been owned by a big travel company in Europe.
Okay.
I've tried several times to buy it. It's been inactive for a while. I've tried to buy it. I've offered five-figure sums for euros for it, and they're like, no, they want six-figure sums, and I'm like,
no.
That's not happening.
Don't worry,
that's not gonna happen. We have that art.
Arturo,
yeah. So people, you can go to Cicerone.org and have the beer certification. Like Jorge have, you know,
exactly.
And you have the pin.
Be like Jorge.
Yeah. Be like Jorge.
It's a great, the first one is great for anybody, even like sales people, anybody in the industry. I really encourage you to take the exam. It's very interesting. You know, you're gonna learn a lot lot of cool stuff. It's a great time.
Yep, absolutely.
So before we go, Arturo, ¿dónde te pueden conseguir? Cuéntame.
Me pueden conseguir por Facebook, Arturo Ferrer, y por Instagram me pueden conseguir por Minimalist, con la X, mira.
Nítido. Quique, ¿dónde te pueden conseguir? Cuéntamelo.
Enrique Fernández, Facebook, y la esquinita Jardín Cervecero.
Dile a Rey que no se vaya, que vamos para la foto necesitamos.
Yeah, when we finish the show, stay for a couple seconds, Ray, because we want to take a screenshot with you.
Okay.
Mira, a mí me pueden conseguir por... Mira, pero tienen que decir... Arturo, dime, ¿dónde te pueden conseguir? Dímelo.
Mira, ¿dónde pueden conseguir a Jorge, el que tiene certification? Certification de Cicerone.
Mira, pues a mí me pueden conseguir bajo... En Facebook bajo Jorge Ramos Lugo, pueden conseguir en Instagram bajo Ramones Brew, y a los 4, porque ahora estamos 4, hasta Rey lo pueden conseguir en Breaking News, Beer and Coffee. Será hasta la próxima. Salud y pesetas. Gracias.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you,
Ray.
It was an honor, it's a privilege for us. Thank you.
Buenas noches a todos. Salud.
Hey.